All right, let's do one more of these together. Like I keep recommending, when you start these, the smartest thing to do is read the question first. It'll tell you what you need for X and Y and help you figure out what to maximize. So this one says, how many of each should be accepted to maximize income? So I know that this is going to be income, and I can start looking back to see what it says, how many of each. So my X and Y's are going to be whatever they're talking about. So as I look at this, it says car and bus. So those are the two things. It says how many of each should be accepted. Okay, so that's why they have here that X is going to be the number of cars, Y is going to be the number of buses. You are going to have to come up with that on your own, so you aren't going to have that provided. Since I know I'm trying to maximize income, I'm going to go and find out how much income each one brings in. So I'm looking for the income from cars. It says a car is charged $250. And so that's where this came from, was $250 per car. And then how about, and I've used that now, and then a bus is $750. So that is also related to the money and goes into my money or profit equation. So again, this wouldn't be provided to you on the test, but you would end up building that equation by saying, okay, I'm trying to maximize income or profit, and so I'm going to go looking for numbers that are about that. Okay. So now keeping in mind that you have to have greater than or equal to 0 of the cars and buses. You can't have a negative number, so those two are always going to be a part of what I do. Now I'm going to go back and look and see what they talk about. The area of the parking lot is 600 square meters. That's a total. And so one of these is going to be about meters squared with a total of 600 that I have to stay at or below. So now I'm going to go try to find out for cars and buses how many meters squared they each take up. So it says a car requires 6 square meters, so 6 per car, and a bus requires 30. So that's going to be plus 30 per bus. Okay. The other thing, it says an attendant can handle only 60 vehicles. So this is going to be the number of vehicles, and 60 is my limit. And this can be confusing, but it's basically just saying the number of cars plus the number of buses has to stay at or below 60. So let's go ahead and graph them. My graph says to count by fives. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, and so on. What, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Sorry, I can't do this without counting out loud. I know it's probably really annoying, but oh well. Okay. And then down here, this was my X, so that's going to be cars. And up here, this is going to be buses. Okay. So if I go to graph this first one, I'm going to make my little zeros table, and I'm going to think if I had a 0 in place of the X and the X part disappeared, I'd have this, and that's going to make my X value, or excuse me, my Y value 20. If I put a 0 in for Y on that same equation, I'd have 6X equals 600, so my Y value would become 100. So I'm going to need to connect from 100 on the X, which is way the heck over here, to 20 on the Y, which is right down here. And then I'm going to connect them using a straight edge or Notability, thank you. And I have to stay under there because that's all I have for square feet, meters. When I go ahead and I'm going to graph the second one, even though it looks weird, if you make the X 0, Y has to be 60. And if you make the Y 0, X has to be 60. So I'm connecting 60 on the X to 60 on the Y. And I'm going to connect those with the straightest line possible. And again, I have to stay under that. So the place that I'm interested in is where they overlap. And that's going to put me from this vertex to here, over to here, and then over to this one that I don't know. So here's vertex 1, 2, 3 is going to be the one that I have to show work for, and then 4. You don't really have to write them in a certain order, but I will do that so it makes more sense, hopefully. So 3 of the 4 I can read off the graph. This one's at the origin. V2 is over here at 60, 0, and V4 is at 0, 20 up here on the y-axis. V3 is the one where I need to do some work. So I'm going to do my work down here to find V3. I take my two equations from up in my equation bank, and I need to do whatever I can to solve them. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply the bottom by a -6. So distributing that -6, these cancel. This is 24. This is, I don't know, 240. And so then y comes out to be 10. Does that seem about right? Yes. Okay. Then to find my x, I'm going to use the easier equation and say, what's x if y is 10 and the total 60? So that has to be a 50. Kind of hurrying because the bell's going to ring. Now I finally use my income or profit, and I'm plugging in the 250 times nothing plus 750 times nothing, and I'm surprisingly making $0. When I plug this one in, I'm going to put in my 60 here, and then this one's going to be a 0. So I end up with 150. Here I'm plugging in my 50 for x and my 10 for y, and I'm getting $200. And on this last one, I am plugging in my 0 for x and my 20 for y. Sorry. And I'm ending up with $150. So this is going to be the combination that produces the most income. So to maximize my income to $200, I'm going to have 50 of the X, which was cars, and 10 of the Y, which was buses. All right, there you go, my friends. Be awesome.